Okay, Act 1, Scene 2 homework, pages 19 to 33, finishing Act 1, Scene 2. But we're actually going to start with a quick little reread of that Colossus speech back on page 18 or 19 since we're reading off the right side of the page. So here's where we're at, right here. And I'm going to start with a shout off stage, trumpets play. A shout off stage, trumpets play. More shouting. I think this applause is from some new honors awarded to Caesar. Why? Caesar straddles the narrow world like a giant, and we petty men walk under his huge legs and look forward only to dying dishonorably as slaves. Men can be masters of their fate. It's not destiny's fault, but our own faults that we're slaves. Brutus and Caesar. What's so special about Caesar? Why should that name be proclaimed more than yours? Write them together. Yours is just as good a name. Pronounce them. It's just as nice to say. Weigh them. It's just as heavy. Cast spells with them, and Brutus will call up a ghost as well as Caesar. Now, in the name of all the gods, I ask you, what food does Caesar eat that has made him grow so great? Our era should be ashamed. Rome has lost the ability to raise noble men. When was there ever an age, since the beginning of time, that didn't feature more than one famous man? Until now, no one could say that only one man mattered in all of vast Rome. Now, though, in all of Rome, there's room only for one man. You and I have heard our fathers talk of another Brutus, your ancestor, who would have let the devil himself reign in his Roman Republic before he let a king rule. Brutus responds, Hey, I have no doubt that you love me. I'm beginning to understand what you want me to do. What I think about this and about what's happening here in Rome, I'll tell you later. For now, don't try to persuade me anymore. I ask you as a friend. I'll think over what you've said. I'll listen patiently to whatever else you have to say. And I'll find a good time for us to discuss further such weighty matters. Until then, my noble friend, think about this. I'd rather be a poor villager than call myself a citizen of Rome under the hard conditions that this time is likely to put us through. Cassius says, Hey, I'm glad that my weak words have provoked even this small show of protest from you. Then Caesar enters with his followers, include Casca. A bunch of people are coming back on stage. And Brutus says, The games are done and Caesar is returning. Cassius says, As they pass by, grab Casca by the sleeve and he'll tell you if anything important happened today in his usual sour way. I'll do so. But look, Cassius, Caesar looks angry and everyone else as if they've been scolded. Calpurnia's face is pale and Cicero's eyes are as red and fiery as they get when senators are arguing with him at the Capitol. Casca will tell us what's the matter. During this exchange between Caesar and Antony, Brutus pulls Casca by the sleeve. So Caesar and Antony are about to have a conversation, and on the sidelines, Brutus grabs Casca to talk to him. Caesar, talking just to Antony, says, Antonio, Caesar, I want the men around me to be fat, healthy-looking men who sleep at night. That Cassius over there has a lean and hungry look. He thinks too much. Men like him are dangerous. Antony replies, Don't be afraid of him, Caesar. He isn't dangerous. He's a noble Roman with a good disposition. Caesar says, I wish he were fatter, but I'm not afraid of him. And yet, if I were capable of fearing anyone, Cassius would be the first man I'd avoid. He reads a lot, he's a keen observer, and he sees the hidden motives in what men do. He doesn't like plays the way you do, Antony. He doesn't listen to music, he rarely smiles. When he does smile, he does so in a self-mocking way, as if he scorns himself for smiling at all. Men like him will never be comfortable while someone ranks higher than themselves, and therefore, they're very dangerous. I'm telling you what should be feared, not what I fear. because after all, I am Caesar. Come over to my right side, because this ear is deaf, and tell me what you really think of Cassius. Trumpets play. Caesar walks off with all of his followers, and Casca and Brutus and Cassius are the only ones left on stage. Casca says, "You tugged my cloak? You want to speak with me?" "Yes, Casca. Tell us what happened today that put Caesar in such a serious mood." Casca replies, "But you were with him, weren't you?" "If I were, I wouldn't need to ask you what happened." Casca says, "A crown was offered to him, and he pushed it away with the back of his hand like this, and then the people started shouting." "What was the second noise for?" "The same thing. They shouted 3 times. What was the last cry for?" "The same thing. The crown was offered to him 3 times?" "Yes, indeed it was, and he pushed it away 3 times, each time more gently than the last. And at each refusal, my countrymen shouted." "Who offered him the crown?" "Antony." "Tell us how it happened, noble Casca." "I can't explain it. It was all silly, so I paid no attention. I saw Mark Antony offer him a crown. It wasn't a real crown, just a small circlet. As I told you, he refused it once, though in my opinion he would have liked to have it. Then Antony offered it to him again, and he refused it again, though in my opinion he was reluctant to take his hand off it. Then Antony offered it the 3rd time. He refused it the 3rd time. As he refused it, the commoners hooted and clapped their chapped hands and threw up their sweaty hats and let loose such a great deal of stinking breath because Caesar refused the crown that it nearly choked Caesar because he fainted and fell down. As for myself, I didn't dare laugh, for fear of opening my lips and inhaling the stinking air." "But wait a minute. Please, did you say Caesar fainted?" "He fell down in the marketplace and foamed at the mouth and was speechless." "That's very likely. He has epilepsy, a disease where you fall down. No, Caesar doesn't have epilepsy. You and I, honest Casca, we have epilepsy. We've fallen." "I don't know what you mean by that, but I'm sure Caesar fell down." The rabble applauded and hissed, and according to whether he pleased them or displeased them, just like they do to actors in the theater. If I didn't, I'm a liar. Brutus asks, "What did he say when he regained consciousness?" Indeed, before he fell down, when he realized the commoners were glad he refused the crown, he pulled open his robe and offered them his throat to cut. If I'd been a common laborer and hadn't taken him up on his offer, to hell with me. And so he fainted. When he regained consciousness again, he said that if he'd done anything or said anything wrong, he wanted them to know that it was all because of his sickness. 3 or 4 women near me cried, "Alas, good soul," and forgave him with all their hearts, but never mind them. If Caesar had stabbed their mothers, they would have forgiven him. And after all that, he came back here looking so serious? Casca says, "Yes." "Did Cicero say anything?" "Yes, he said something in Greek." "What did he say?" "If I told you I understood Greek, I'd be lying." But those who understood him smiled at one another and shook their heads. As for myself, it was Greek to me. I have more news too. Marcellus and Flavius have been punished for pulling scarves off statues of Caesar. There you go. There's even more foolishness, if only I could remember it. Will you have dinner with me tonight, Casca? No, I have a commitment. Will you dine with me tomorrow? Yes, if I'm still alive and you're still sane and the dinner is worth eating. Good. I'll expect you. Do so. Farewell to you both. Casca exits. Brutus says, "What a stupid man he's become. He was so sharp when he was in school." Cassius says, "He's still sharp when it comes to carrying out a bold or noble enterprise, though he puts on this show of stupidity. He speaks roughly, but what he says is smart. And his roughness just makes other people enjoy listening to him." Brutus says, "Yeah, you're right, that is how it is. I'll leave you for now. If you'd like to talk tomorrow, I'll come to your home. If you don't mind, come to my home, and I'll wait for you. Cassius says, I'll do so. Until then, think about the well-being of Rome. Brutus exits. So now Cassius is by himself on stage. Well, Brutus, you're noble. Yet I see that your honorable character can be bent from its usual shape, which proves that good men should stick only to the company of other good men, because who is so firm that he can't be seduced? Caesar resents me, but he loves Brutus. If I were Brutus now, and Brutus were me, I wouldn't have let him influence me. Tonight, I'll throw through his windows a few letters in different handwriting, as if they came from several citizens, all testifying to the great respect Romans have for Brutus, and all alluding to Caesar's unseemly ambition. And after this, we'll let Caesar brace himself, for we'll either dethrone him or suffer even